Eddie. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here. One of those basic technical difficulties, folks. Don't worry, they happen all the time. We're experts at solving them, but not preventing them. We are thrilled to have you here for this epic debate, folks. This is going to be a lot of fun as we have two experienced debaters here. You can say kind of experienced. We've had Otangelo has been on before to debate, and Leophilius has been on debating on Discord, if I recall right. And so we are thrilled to have these guys here. It's going to be a lot of fun, folks. Want to first say, though, if it's your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button as we have a lot more debates coming up, which we are very excited about, including this Thursday, whether or not the Illuminati exists. So that should be a juicy one, as always. And also excited, though, to let you know, folks, we're a nonpartisan channel. In other words, the channel itself, we have never made any videos that declare a certain side having won or lost, and we never will. This channel, from now until as long as it exists, will always be a debate channel where the debaters are the only ones making their case, and the channel doesn't take any particular positions. We are strictly neutral. And also, with that, whether you be Christian, atheist, you name it, no matter what walk of life you come from, we do hope you feel welcome. We really are glad to have you here, and we're going to jump into this pretty quick. So what we're going to have is flexible 10-minute opening statements, followed by 60 minutes of open conversation, and then 30 minutes of Q&A from you. So if you have a question, feel free to fire it into the old live chat. And if you tag me with @ModernDayDebate, that'll help me be sure that I get every question in the list for that Q&A. Super chat is also an option. If you do a super chat, you can not only ask a question, but if you'd like, you can actually make a comment toward one of the speakers, and your question or comment will go to the top of the list with the super chat. So we are going to jump into this. As I had mentioned, 10-minute openings, and our first one is going to be from Otangelo, who is defending the fine-tuning argument for theism. Thanks, both of you, though, guys. We're thrilled to have you here. Thanks so much. And yeah, so just want to say first, thank you very much, Leophilius and Otangelo, for being here.
Of the subatomic particles, of the atoms, of the physical laws, and so forth. So that is my introduction. The fine-tuning of the laws and the constants of physics is one of the most extraordinary discoveries of the 20th century in physics. It makes a strong argument for design, which comes out of physics, and the more science advances, the more it discovers that the laws of physics and cosmological parameters must be finely tuned to permit a life-permitting universe. Both the fundamental constants that describe the laws of physics and the cosmological parameters that determine the properties of our universe must fall within a range of values in order for the cosmos to develop astrophysical structures and ultimately the Earth able to support life. The laws of physics need to have the right parameters to support the making of the building blocks that are needed for life to arise. The thing that really does surprise us and which really does need explanation, and that is the incredible improbability of the conditions that are necessary for our existence. We can make a syllogistic argument pointing to intelligent design as the best explanation of the fine-tuning of the universe. 1. The laws of physics and cosmological parameters are finely tuned to the extreme to permit life. 2. The fine-tuning of the universe is either due to chance, physical necessity, or intelligent design. 3. This fine-tuning is too improbable to be due to chance, and there was no physical necessity or constraint to permit only the parameters that actually exist. Therefore, the fine-tuning is most likely due to intelligent design. Now, there are three possible explanations. And I think that the design argument makes most sense if we consider all the fine-tuned parameters starting from the physical laws to actually even the fine-tuning of biology. And there are the laws of physics, laws of universal gravitation, the three laws of motion, conservation of mass and energy, laws of thermodynamics, and electrostatic laws. Then there is the subatomic particles which have to be fine-tuned, that is quark fine-tuning. The quark is a type of elementary particle and the fundamental constituent of matter. A proton is composed of two up quarks and one down quark. The mass of the down quark is slightly heavier than the up quark. A neutron is made of two heavy down quarks plus one light up quark. Hence, a neutron is little heavier than a proton. That heaviness has consequences. If it were not so, the simplest atoms would not join and form molecules, and the universe would host no life. More than 70 times heavier than there would be no life. While this may not seem finely tuned, physics suggests that the down quark could have been many trillions of times heavier. So we are actually left with the question, why does the down quark appear so light? Then we have the Higgs boson. The Higgs boson gives substance to all nature's other particles. And that mass requires a fine-tuning on the order of 1 in 10 to the 34. Then we have the four fundamental forces: the gravitational force, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force. All four must be finely tuned for life. If the strong nuclear force were slightly weaker by just 1 part in 10 billion, then protons and neutrons would not stick together. And the only element possible in the universe would be hydrogen only. The weak nuclear force is what controls the rates at which radioactive elements decay. If this force were slightly stronger, the matter would decay into heavy elements in a relatively short time. However, if it were significantly weaker, all matter would almost totally exist in the form of the lightest elements, especially hydrogen and helium. There would be, for example, virtually no oxygen, carbon, or nitrogen, which are essential for life. Gravity. Were gravity not almost exactly 10 to the 36 times weaker, then we would not be here. The electromagnetic force must be finely tuned in many different ways in order for life in our universe and on Earth to be possible. There is multi-fine tuning. In most analysis of the fine tuning of the force strengths of the constants of nature, only one parameter is adjusted at a time, and this would correspond to changing one dial at a time on our universe creating machine, while leaving the other dials unchanged. But even taken individually, each of these examples of fine-tuning are impressive, but in the real universe, the values of all constants and force strengths must be satisfied simultaneously to have a universe hospitable to life. Martin Rees mentions 6 numbers. According to him, these 6 numbers constitute a receipt of the universe. Moreover, the outcome is sensitive to their values. If any of them were to be untuned, there would be no stars and no life. And Fred Hoyle wrote, some super-calculating intellect must have designed the properties of the carbon atom. Otherwise, the change of my finding such an atom through the blind forces of nature would be utterly minuscule. A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that the super intellect has monkeyed with physics, as well as with chemistry and biology, and that there would be no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seem to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. Then we have the fine tuning of the solar system. Our sun is placed at the right distance from our galactic center. Our sun is placed in an arm of the Milky Way where we can discover the universe. Then our sun has the right mass, gives off the right amount of energy, its fusion reaction is finely tuned, contains the right amount of life requiring metals, and is uncommonly stable. Our moon. If our moon would not exist, the day would be 8 hours long. The winds would be much stronger. Complex life would probably not exist. If the Earth had no moon, we wouldn't be here. A large moon stabilizes the rotation axis of the Earth, yielding a more stable, life-friendly climate. Our moon keeps Earth's axis tilt from varying over a large range. A larger tilt would cause large climate fluctuations. The fine-tuning of the Earth. The Earth requires the right size and gravity. If the sun were closer to the Earth, we would burn up. If farther away, we would freeze. The Earth requires to be tilted at 23.5 degrees. What we see is a planet that is perfectly balanced for our habitation. We see design in the perfect balance. Many chemical processes necessary for life are dependent on elements we call raw earth minerals. These only exist as trace amounts, but without which life could not continue. The Earth has the just right ozone layer, which filters out ultraviolet radiation and helps mitigate temperature swings. The Earth's surface gravity strength preventing the atmosphere from losing water to space too rapidly. The Earth's spin rate on its axis provides for a range of day and nighttime temperatures to allow life to thrive. The atmosphere's composition, oxygen, nitrogen, etc., is just right for life. The atmosphere's pressure enables our lungs to function and water to evaporate at an optimal rate to support life. The atmosphere's transparency to allow an optimal range of life-giving solar radiation to reach the surface, and the atmosphere's capacity to hold water, vapor, providing for stable temperature and rainfall ranges. Efficient life-giving photosynthesis depends on quantum physics. The Earth requires sufficient amount of water. The water molecule's astounding robustness results from finely balanced quantum effects. Water life's giving properties exist on a knife edge. It turns out that life as we know it relies on incredibly delicate balance of quantum forces. Water is unrivaled solvent.
1 minute
Its
left.
low viscosity permits the tiniest blood vessels. Its high specific heat stabilizes biosphere temperatures. Its low thermal conductivity as a solid insulates frozen over lakes, and as a liquid, its high conductivity lets organisms distribute heat. It's an efficient lubricant. It's only mildly reactive. Has an anomalous fish-saving expansion when it freezes. Its high vapor tension keeps moisture in the atmosphere, and it tastes great too. Then we have a volcanic activity and the Earth's magnetic field.
Got about 30
So
seconds.
there is a whole range of parameters starting from the Big Bang to the Earth and then even to fine tuning of biological systems which need to be finely tuned.
You got it?
I'm finished.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Otangelo. We will now kick it over to Leophilius for his opening statement as well. Thanks for being here, folks. And Leophilius, thanks for being here as well. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, James. And I'd like to extend another thank you for allowing me to come onto your channel to have this discussion. This is a really, really good discussion, I think, for my debut debate on this channel. Is the universe finely tuned for life? And does this point to an intelligent designer? Well, let's take a look at our universe and life's place within it. In about 99% of the universe, because 99% of the universe is empty space, life as we know it would die in mere seconds. Right off the bat, our universe doesn't really look like a place that was designed specifically for life. What I mean by this is, if you were to take a human, put them in the vacuum of space, they would die. There's no pressure, there's no gravity, there's no heat, all of the things that we need for survival, all of the things that most life that we know of needs for survival. You put a human, a cat, a dog, a tree in the interstellar medium, and its genetic material will be almost immediately ripped apart by the intensely energetic cosmic rays and the electromagnetic radiation that permeate the whole of both interstellar and intergalactic space. Now, some people might be thinking, well, what about tardigrades? Can't tardigrades survive in the vacuum of space? Within the solar system, where the sun's powerful magnetic field prevents the interstellar medium, or rather the energy that's in the interstellar medium, from piercing it and getting to us, yes, they can. But if you were to put them into the interstellar medium or the intergalactic medium, they would die very, very quickly. This doesn't seem like the kind of universe that you would want if life was your end result. The second point that I'd like to make is this. About 69% of all the mass energy in the universe is something that we don't really even know that much about, called dark energy. Another 27% of the mass energy in the universe is something else that we know a little bit more about, but not much, called dark matter. The remaining material, the material that everything that we can see, all the forms of life that could exist in the universe are made of, is a whopping 4%. A whopping 4% of the total mass energy density of the universe. Again, this doesn't seem like something that would be the case if the universe was designed specifically for life. Another point that I'd like to make is this. Why would an all-powerful God need to fine-tune a universe to begin with? He's all-powerful. He could create any universe and allow for life to exist within it if he really wanted to. So why does he need to fine-tune a universe for our existence? It just doesn't seem like the universe had us in mind at all. It doesn't seem that the universe was put here purposefully so that we would exist. And rather short opening, I'd like to end with an analogy. We have a fish swimming around in the ocean. He looks around and he says, you know, I'm in this water, I'm in this ocean, I can breathe the water just fine. All the food that I need is right here within the ocean. My skin is scaly and sleek. I have fins, and these allow me to move within the water in an agile way. Aha, the fish exclaims. The ocean must have been designed specifically for fish to exist within it. But I don't think that anybody would actually state that that is the case. The ocean is not designed specifically for fish to exist within it. Fish evolved to be capable of surviving in the ocean. Likewise, the universe is not finely tuned for life. Life arose in such a way that it could survive in the universe. And I will yield the remainder of my time to the moderator.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. In a moment, we will jump into the open conversation portion. As mentioned, you can fire your questions into the live chat, and then we will be working on reading each and every one, time permitting. Also, want to mention, we just started doing this. We're very excited that if you, don't worry, all of our debates, they're always going to be public. So we'll never have like any debates behind a paywall. What we're doing though is some people were like, I would love audio because I don't have, let's say you don't have YouTube Premium and you're like, I love to listen to the debates though. And so we were adding it as a Patreon perk, and our Patreon link is in the description box, where now all of the audio of our new debates that are coming out, as well as old debates that you can request, we are putting the audio files on Patreon. And so you can sign up for Patreon for as low as $2 a month, and you'll have access to those MP3s. So with that, thanks to our guests, we'll jump into that open conversation mode. Gentlemen, thanks again. The floor is all yours.
Yes, so your first point, Devin, is that how you would like to be called?
Devin, Leo, it doesn't really matter. Whichever's more comfortable
Okay,
for you.
okay.
I don't care if people know my name. It's not that big of a deal.
Oh, okay. So your first objection to the fine-tune argument is that the universe 99.9% is actually not fine-tuned for life. Now, that point seems a little bit moot to me, because the question is not why is it not 99.9% fine-tuned for life. The question is, why is it fine-tuned to host life at all? And why is there even a universe? Because even the Big Bang is precisely fine-tuned, the expansion rate, the matter-antimatter ratio, and so forth. If the Big Bang would not be finely tuned, there would be no universe.
Yes, but if the whole goal of the universe was for life to exist, why is it that life would die very quickly in 99% of the universe?
Well, I can give you an example. Let's take a light bulb. The light bulb is made to radiate light. Now, of course, if you touch the light bulb, you will burn your hands. So it wasn't made for that. So that seems a little bit moot for me, that argument, because the universe, maybe the sun and so forth, if we would go there, we would burn ourselves, we would not be able to survive. But that's not the purpose of the rest of the universe. So as I repeat, the question is, why is there a universe at all? Why is the Big Bang finely tuned? And then why is the Earth and the galaxy and all the other things precisely fine-tuned to host us?
Are those things fine-tuned for us, or did we just happen to evolve to survive within the particular conditions that we're in?
Well, I repeat again, the Big Bang was finely tuned. It is the most finely tuned event in the history of the universe.
We haven't even gotten back to the Big Bang yet. The furthest back that we can get is about 10 to the negative 13th seconds, past which general relativity breaks down and we lose a description of space-time. So we haven't even gotten back to the Big Bang to know what it's like, which is another reason why most cosmologists would say, we don't know if the universe really is finely tuned, or if there's a deeper explanation that tells us why the constants have the values that they do.
But for example, Professor Hawking says, if the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it even reached its present state. And Steven Weinberg said, there are now 2 cosmological constant problems. The old cosmological constant problem is to understand in a natural way why the vacuum energy density is not very much larger. We can reliably calculate some contributions like the energy density in the fluctuations. In the gravitational field, at gravitation energy is nearly up to the Planck scale, which is larger than is observationally allowed by some 120 orders of magnitude. That's the cosmological constant. So we have this data. We know how precisely that the cosmological constant had to be finely tuned. So we cannot say, oh, we don't know. We know actually how enormously fine-tuned that the Big Bang had to be in order for our universe to exist.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the parameters were set by some intelligence. There could be some underlying cause that tells us why they hold the values that they do. We don't know yet. We don't have a unified field theory to tell us all about the fundamental forces. We don't have a quantum theory of gravity to tell us why gravity is so much weaker than the other forces. And we really don't know anything past about 10 to the negative 13th seconds to know how the universe was in its earliest moments when the values of these constants and parameters may have been different.
Well, I think there is no big controversy that the cosmological constant had to be finely tuned up to that degree. And you have three possible explanations. One is design, the second is physical necessity. It couldn't be different. And the third possibility would be chance, so random unguided natural events. I don't see why physical necessity is an option that makes sense, because it could have had different parameters, and chance in such an extreme manner. I mean, we have 10 to the 8 atoms in the universe, and the cosmological constant is even far, far more narrow in its range in order to be in a range that permits the universe to expand and we to exist in it.
How do we know that the parameters could not have been different or could have been different? Did we measure other universes to figure that out?
Well, I mean, there are many, many different parameters that are involved in order for us to be here. And there is no reason to think, for example, that the moon could be much smaller than it actually is, or that the sun, its distance from the Earth could be much farther away. Actually, as you even said, 99% of the universe is hostile to life. So these parameters, they could have been easily different. So I see no reason to think that there is physical necessity, and why the universe could not have been non-life permitting. That is a very extreme position to take, I think.
There is actually a quick point I wanted to make about our distance from the sun. Both Mars and Venus are within the sun's circumstellar habitable zone. We could put the Earth where Venus is, and some life might die, but for the most part, life would be fine. We could put the Earth where Mars is, and again, some life might die, but for the most part, life would be fine. We would still be within the circumstellar habitable zone. And if I remember the math that I did, I think that's a variation of, I want to say, about 70 million miles that we have where we can move the Earth. And for the most part, life is going to be just fine. There would still be liquid water. The surface temperature might change naturally, but there would still be liquid water on Earth and likely life.
Well, the Goldilocks range is not so extremely fine-tuned. I agree with that with you. But as I listed, there are many, many different other fine-tuned parameters that need to be just right in order for the Earth to be able to host life. So I listed over 10 different parameters. If there would be no moon, there would be no life.
On Earth, but what about a planet that doesn't have a moon but does have life? Is that an impossibility? All planets with life have to have moons? Or
well,
a moon?
The moon that has a very specific purpose is permitting life on Earth. Today would
On Earth, yes.
Well, as I said, you need to have over a dozen different fine-tuned parameters on the Earth in order to host and permit life.
Yeah, for the Earth to permit life, but not other planets. There could be planets that are larger that have life, that are smaller that have life, that are closer to or further from their stars, that have more moons or no moon at all, that have rings. There's numerous things. So life on Earth requires these parameters, but life elsewhere does not necessarily require those same parameters.
Well, there has been made a calculation how rare that life would be in the universe. And a science paper said that the chance to find a life-permitting planet is 1 to 10 to the 123rd power. So that gives an idea about how extremely rare that our Earth is.
So if life in the universe is extremely rare, doesn't that kind of work against fine tuning? Because again, if the whole purpose of the universe being here and looking the way it does is so that not necessarily specifically humans, but that life can exist, then why is life so rare? Why is the universe so hostile to life? And why are we made up of such an infinitesimally small amount of the universe? It doesn't seem like the universe is here specifically for us.
Well, first of all, I am not God in order to say to you the purpose of his creating the universe, why it was just to make one planet able to host life. Of course, he could have made other planets doing so, and we don't even know if that is the case, but I personally don't believe so. But yeah.
But another point that I want to go back to is, how do we know that there are not any underlying causes, underlying physical necessities that mandate these values have the values that they do? I mean, given that I think you would agree, we know a lot, obviously. We've got quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, relativity. We know a hell of a lot about our reality and how it works, but we don't know everything. So how have we ruled out the possibility that there is something that dictates that these parameters have to have the values that they do? How have we ruled that out?
Well, as I mentioned in my introduction, even taken individually, each of these examples of fine-tuning are impressive. But in the real universe, the values of all the constants and force strengths must be satisfied simultaneously to have a universe hospitable to life.
So, and with all of the parameters, I think that you would agree, if we could get a God's eye view, so to speak, and we could theoretically just change all the parameters at whim, that we could technically change them from minus infinity to plus infinity. So how do we know that we couldn't take every parameter in our universe and change it in some way and still have life?
Well, I think science has made these tests and calculations, and I just quoted you, Griffins, which said that if you change one parameter, then you have to change another three in order to have again a life-permitting universe. And if you change then the other three, then there are other parameters that have to be changed. So this is a fine balance. If you don't have everything right, then nothing goes. Then you don't have a life-permitting universe.
So what if you did change all the parameters and the universe was still capable of permitting life?
Well, that is just what I told you right now. That would not be possible. If you change just
how do we know that?
Well,
I mean, we don't have any other universes to measure this one against to know what a universe with different parameters would look like.
As I just told you, they did these calculations, and if they change just one force of the fundamental forces, then you have to change everything else too. You cannot just change one force and then it still functions. It's not how it works. If you change one thing, then you have to change several other things together in order to have a fine-tuning again.
But if so, you are essentially admitting that there could be other ways that you can change not just one, but all of the parameters and still somehow have life.
Well, as I told you, they made calculations if there could be other life-permitting planets in the universe. And the chance is 1 to 10 to the 123rd power. So that's extremely unlikely.
Okay, so that means that if we changed all the parameters, there's no way we could ever have life?
Well, I give an example. Lee Smolin, for example, he made a calculation about the chance to have a universe hosting stars. And the chance is 1 to 10 to the 209th power. So if it is not fine-tuned exactly to what we have no stars and no life.
But how do we know that if we don't have other universes with different parameters to tell us whether or not there could still be stars or galaxies or planets or life? When people can calculate, well, it looks like you couldn't really change this parameter, or if you did, the chances of this still existing is this, but we don't have any tangible evidence to actually suggest that is the case.
Well, first of all, you need to start with the Big Bang. And already there, you run into problems. even to have a universe, the range of fine tuning is so small, the cosmological constant alone is so extremely small that you have to find an answer. Why is that so? Why is there actually a universe rather than not?
The why there is something rather than nothing, I think that the contingency argument, I think that's a different discussion.
Okay, but I am referring now to the initial conditions of the universe, of the Big Bang.
We don't know what those are.
Well, I gave you just an example, cosmological constant. We know it is in the range of 1 to 10 to the 123rd power.
We don't know what the cosmological constant was at, say, 10 to the negative 29th seconds after the Big Bang, because we haven't gotten back that far. There might not have been a cosmological constant back then. Like I said, some of these parameters might not have even existed in the very early universe.
Well, Devin, we have to work with what we have on hand, and we have a lot of data on hand. And considering what we have, we can say that the best explanation for why there was a finely tuned Big Bang and atoms and stars and everything else is that it was designed.
Or it could have just had to be that way. Or it could have just ended up that way. We don't know.
Well, as I told you, there is no physical necessity that there is a life permitting universe. It could be non-life permitting. So
how have we ruled out physical necessity when we don't have an underlying description of our entire reality, which you would need in order to make the claim that it couldn't be physical necessity?
Well, I gave you an example. For example, the moon. I don't see a reason why there could be an Earth without the moon. And if there would be no moon, there would be no life.
As we know it, there would be no life. But I think that most astrobiologists would probably say if you took away the moon, there could still be some forms of life on the Earth. They might not be complex, but there could still be life.
Well, if we would have no moon, then we would have no tides, causing the ocean waters to remain stagnant and produce no oxygen for its creatures. So there would be no oxygen, you would have no advanced life. I think there would be no life without the moon. Also because of the rotation of the Earth, which would be much faster. And there are other things that are just in balance. The moon, Earth is a system that is finely tuned and in balance to permit life. And if you take the moon out, then you have no life.
Again, that's to permit life on Earth, specifically on Earth. And we evolved on Earth to survive in the particular environment that we're in. We're fine-tuned for the environment. The environment isn't fine-tuned for us.
Well, as I said, you need to start from the Big Bang. Without fine-tuning, there would be no expansion at the right rate, and we would have no universe with stars and everything else, and galaxies and planets.
Yeah, but we don't know what caused inflation, and we also don't know what the values of the parameters would have been during inflation or prior to inflation, if there is a prior to inflation. We also don't even know if all of the constants and parameters that we see today would have even existed. And they've suggested that some of them may not have. The speed of light may not have been constant in the early universe. The cosmological constant may not have been constant in the early universe. We don't know because we do not have the technology to understand those energy levels in those earliest moments of time. So we cannot say with any level of definitiveness that the parameters and constants of the Big Bang had to be the way they are. We just don't know.
Well, I think that you have to go even deeper, and you have to ask, why are the physical laws mathematical and finely tuned as well? And if you have no physical laws, you have no physics. You have no universe either. And the physical laws and the physical universe, they had to start together, and they are interdependent. So there you have another level of problem of fine tuning, which you have to find an answer to.
Why there's physics and math?
Why are the laws of physics finely tuned and based on mathematical principles?
Well, that seems to me to just be kind of a, what is it, an ad hoc, I think it is. Is that the word? Is that the term? No, a priori. That's the term I'm looking for. It seems like an a priori assumption that the laws of physics are fine-tuned before having demonstrated that they are in fact fine-tuned.
Well, they are fine-tuned, and they
How do we know
are
that?
based. Well, you need to. I don't think this is a subject of a live discussion, but I can send you after our debate the relevant papers which demonstrate that the laws of physics, they are finely tuned and they are based on mathematical principles, and they enforce how matter behaves.
I mean, the constants and parameters that we see in the universe today have to be in those values to get the universe that we see today. Nobody has ever changed any of the parameters to know what a universe would actually look like or whether or not there could be life. Again, it just kind of seems like an a priori assumption.
Well, I can give you a quote. The naive view implies that the universe suddenly came into existence and found a complete system of physical laws waiting to be obeyed. Actually, it seems more natural to suppose that the physical universe and the laws of physics are interdependent. That is McCrea cosmology after half a century in science paper. So the laws of physics and the physical stuff upon which the laws of physics interact, they are interdependent.
Well,
I
the
just
laws of physics
explained
are
it.
really just human abstractions of how reality fundamentally works. They're descriptive, not prescriptive.
Well, I would say they are descriptive because the mathematical formulas and laws, they are enforced of how matter and physical things behave.
Math is also a human abstraction that is descriptive, not prescriptive. These things just kind of are a part of reality. They're not prescribed to it by some external intelligence.
Well, that is what you just say, but the thing is that the universe works based on mathematical principles. And then you have to find an explanation of why that is so. Why is
The
there
universe just does what it does. We invented the mathematical principles to describe what the universe does. But math is not an objective feature of reality. Humans created math.
Well, Einstein asked, why is there not chaos rather than order in the universe? And that is a very pertinent question.
I would argue the universe is quite chaotic.
Well, Albert Einstein said the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. How would you comprehend it if it would be chaotic?
I guess I don't get the question. Why does something chaotic have to be incomprehensible?
Well, chaos, you cannot quantify chaos. Chaos is disorder, but the universe works based on mathematical principles which can be put in formulas.
Well,
And
if
there you have
chaos,
to, and there
if
you have
chaos
to
is
ask,
disorder, then wouldn't entropy dictate that since the universe is getting more disorderly, that it's also getting more chaotic?
well, yes, that is one of the fundamental laws, but you have to ask,
So then couldn't you actually
why
chaos,
is the universe at the beginning of its existence in an extremely high entropical order?
We don't know. We don't have the mathematics to describe the early universe to know that.
Well, the thing
That's one of the points I've been making.
Yeah, but the thing is that the laws of physics, that is the law of universal gravitation, the three laws of motion, the conservation of mass and energy, the laws of thermodynamics and electrostatic laws, they can be put in formulas. And the question is, why do these formulas enforce how physical matter behaves?
They don't. Our mathematical laws don't dictate how the universe works. That would be assuming that they're prescriptive. They describe how the universe works. The universe just does what it does. The math that we invent tells us what the universe does. It doesn't make the universe do it. By the way, you mentioned the conservation of energy. You do know that the conservation of energy is broken by all rights in general relativity, correct?
Well, I'm not very much into that, so I don't know.
No, it is due to the breaking of time translation symmetry. Since there's no symmetry, you don't get Noether's theorem. You don't get a conserved quantity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but still, I disagree with you because the laws of physics, obviously, they are enforced on physical matter, on the universe. Otherwise, there would be no laws of physics. So the universe works based on stable laws. The universe is stable of a long period of time because of these laws which do not change. So these laws, they are enforced on physics. So you cannot say, oh, that's just a description. No, it's a description and it's a prescription of how our universe works. And we know that the universe works based on mathematical principles. So you have to ask yourself, why do these mathematical principles, why are they enforced on physical things? And I think that an intelligent mind on the bottom of all physical things explains it, because a mind can actually come up with mathematical formulas, while a non-mind cannot.
Exactly. That's how we know that humans created mathematics. And again, mathematics doesn't tell reality what to do. It simply describes what it does.
Okay, we can move forward because I simply disagree with you on that. I think that the laws of physics, they enforce how matter behaves.
So you believe the laws of physics transcend physical reality?
Um, yes, yes, they do,
And
because mathematics is not something physical, it is something abstract. And I think it has to come from a mind.
it does, the human mind.
Well, I
If
think
humans didn't exist, there
there
would be no math. Math would not exist if humans never existed.
well, I believe in a mind which is supernatural, which is at the bottom of all reality, and which fine-tuned the universe, and which came up with these mathematical formulas to produce the physical laws.
Yeah, that I think is more of a different discussion on whether or not that being exists. Not really. I mean, it's somewhat related to this discussion, but this one is more about specifically the fine tuning. But I do want to go back to the initial point that I made, because I do think it is a major problem for the idea that the universe is finely tuned for life, when life would die in 99% of the universe.
Well, as I said to you, the question is, why is the universe life permitting rather than not life permitting? It is irrelevant that in 99.9% of the universe, it is not life permitting.
To ask why the universe is life permitting, when you say why, do you mean what is the meaning behind it, or do you mean how does the universe allow for life to exist?
Well, the question is, why is the universe finely tuned to host life at all?
Well, that's assuming that the universe is finely tuned.
Well, of course it is.
I don't think it is. It doesn't look like it's finely tuned for life.
That's what we are talking about. And if it would not be finely tuned for life, we would not be here. There would be just random chaos.
Or what if life is finely tuned for the universe?
Excuse me?
So what if life was just finely tuned for the universe? It evolved to be capable of surviving in this environment rather than the environment being tailored for this creature.
I have to come back to what I said previously. The fine-tuning begins right at the bottom of everything at the Big Bang. And if there would be not a fine-tuned Big Bang, there would be not a life-permitting universe.
But again, we don't know if the Big Bang is fine-tuned because we haven't been capable of examining those time scales and energy scales. We can't talk about what we don't know.
Well, I think we know, and the cosmological constant. Well, we know the cosmological constant, how finely tuned it has to be to permit an expansion rate of the universe, which is not too fast and which is not permitting the universe to collapse into itself. So it has to be finely, the expansion rate must be finely tuned in order to permit the universe to exist. And there starts already the question.
How do we know that the cosmological constant doesn't break down or disappear or combine with something else at earlier times if we've never been to those times? That's a major point. We don't know what happens here, so we can't make claims about what happens here.
Well, it is
Not
not
have
only
a description of this.
it is not only the cosmological constant, but also the matter antimatter must be 1 part in 10 billion, and that the one part makes all matter in the universe. Why is the annihilation of matter antimatter finely tuned as well? There are several things that must be just right.
Are you asking about baryon asymmetry?
It's the matter antimatter relation is 1 to 10 billion. There are in each 10 billion antimatter there is one matter which makes up the matter in the universe, and that ratio is finely tuned. And if it would not be finely tuned, we would not have matter in the universe. It would
But
be
we're pretty sure we know why matter dominates over antimatter. That problem is called baryon asymmetry, and we believe that it likely has something to do with neutrino oscillation.
Okay,
so that would explain, that would be something that explains why something seemingly is fine-tuned for specifically baryon asymmetry. Now, I'll admit we haven't verified that, but it fits very, very well with the data that we currently do have, that neutrino oscillation ended up allowing matter to dominate over antimatter. How do we know that it's not the same for all the other parameters, that there's something there that is well within the confines of the universe that explains why that parameter is that way? How have we ruled that out? Because I haven't been given an explanation of how we've ruled that out.
Well, maybe it can be ruled out, but my point is that we know that the cosmological constant must be just right to the extreme of 1 to the 10 to the 123rd power. And if it would not be so, there would be not a life-permitting universe. There would be actually there would be no universe at all, because the expansion rate must be just right. And if it isn't, there would be no universe. So
you do know that the universe is accelerating in its expansion, correct?
Yes.
So the expansion of the universe is not constant.
Correct. It is accelerating, but that acceleration rate must be just right as well.
And another thing that I should mention just while we're on it, the universe is not physically expanding. It's not like an object getting bigger in an otherwise pre-existing space. It's a metric expansion of the scale of the universe that can only be measured on sufficient enough distances.
Okay, but my point stands that acceleration rate must be also extremely fine-tuned in order for the universe not to expand too fast and not permitting the evolution of stars and planets, or too slow to collapse into itself.
How do we know that the cosmological constant doesn't break down or disappear at the earliest moments in the universe's history?
Well, I don't know that, but I think that the fact that the cosmological constant must be so finely tuned to the extreme makes a formidable case for intelligent design. There must be something, and I think an intelligent designer is the best explanation for that fine-tuning.
But we haven't ruled out physical necessity, because we don't know if there are other things that dictate these parameters have the values that they do.
Okay, let's suppose there would be a physical necessity to fine-tune the cosmological constant. But then you have so many other things that must be finely tuned as well, which I brought up in my introduction. That is the fine-tuning of the subatomic particles, fine-tuning of the fundamental forces, fine-tuning of the galaxies, fine-tuning of the sun, fine-tuning of the Earth, of the moon, of the atmosphere, of so many different things that must be just right as well. So you have still to find an explanation and to say, well, all these things are so because of necessity. Well, that is a very far-fetched explanation. I don't think that it makes sense to say, oh, there could be no moon, or the distance from the sun to the Earth could not be different. Of course it could be different. So I think that that argument that the universe must be life permitting is very weak.
So in terms of the subatomic realm, number one, we have no idea why there's 3 generations of matter, but we're quite sure a unified field theory will probably tell us why. And a unified field theory will probably give us a much, much more thorough description of all 4 fundamental forces and could very well tell us why they have the strengths that they do. Their strengths could have probably and likely were different in the early universe. So again, it just comes back to this, we don't know. And again, it seems like you're kind of making an a priori assumption that these things are finely tuned, even though that hasn't really been established yet.
No, I think that has been established. I will quote you again. The heaviness of quarks has consequences. If it were not so, the simplest atoms would not join and form molecules, and the universe would not host life. More than
that doesn't
70
mean
times.
that they were designed that way. There could be, again, like I said, something in the mathematics that tells us why it's that way. We don't have to assume that it was designed that way.
Well, the fact is that it is fine-tuned. I continue. More than 70 times heavier, and there would be no life. While this may not seem too finely tuned, physics suggests that the down quark could have been many trillion times heavier. So we are actually left with the question, why does the down quark appear so light? So you
We don't
have
know.
well, I'm giving you 3 possible explanations. That is design, luck, and physical necessity. And it seems to me that design explains it.
Well,
A
so does
mind,
physical necessity.
well, I don't
And I would
see,
argue that's a better explanation because it requires us to make less assumptions. There could easily be something in a unified field theory that tells us exactly why these values have to be the
well,
case,
but
which I would think is much more likely than assuming an intelligent designer with all these other properties and everything else. And I do want to mention that I've watched some lectures by Leonard Susskind. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's
yes,
one of the titans of theoretical physics. He's a professor of theoretical physics at Stanford University and the director of the Stanford Institute for Theoretical Physics and one of the co-founders of string theory. And even he says these things are not finely tuned. We don't know why there's 3 generations of matter. Why there's light, medium, and then heavy. We don't know. We don't know why the values of the forces or the strengths of the forces have the values they do. We just don't know.
well, I will quote you again. Physics suggests that the down quark could have been many trillions of times heavier. So that refutes your argument that there is physical necessity.
Well, if it could have been different, but it's not, to me, that kind of implies that there's probably something in the math, something about our physical reality that dictated it had to be that way, i.e. physical necessity.
Well, mathematical formulas can be changed.
What was that?
Mathematical formulas, they can be changed. So there
Can
is
or
no
cannot?
reason. Well, of course they can.
No, I was asking, I didn't catch that. Did you say they can or they cannot be changed?
They can be changed.
Okay. So if all the parameters could be changed, but they're not, then doesn't that imply that there could easily be something telling us that, well, this is why they took these values? That this math tells us why. Yeah, but then wouldn't that be physical necessity?
No, that would be design, because physical necessity, because there is no physical necessity imposing upon mathematical formulas. Mathematical formulas is something abstract and you can change it.
Oh, okay, but you can't change what the math is describing.
But you can enforce a mathematical formula upon physical laws.
To give an example, we have the equation E equals mc squared. I could change that to h equals 4 pi squared. And as long as I assume that all those terms, if I just make them mean what E equals mc squared means, I changed the formula, but it still describes the same thing. So you can change a mathematical formula, but you can't change what it describes.
We've got just a couple more minutes.
Yes. I agree with you, but that's my point. You can change a mathematical formula. So my question is, why does the mathematical formulas that underline the physical laws of the universe and describe it, and they are enforcing how physical matter behaves, why do these physical formulas permit a life-permitting universe? And
we don't know.
think, Okay,
So let me ask you a question. Would you
you're-
be willing to grant that even though there is life in the universe, that maybe there could not have been, even though it could permit it, that the universe could permit life, but it just never happened? Would you be willing to grant that that's at least a possibility?
Yes, but we are here, so
Yes,
that's what
yeah.
we try to elucidate.
So just because the universe is life permitting doesn't mean there has to be life in it. It just means there can be.
Yes,
Which I think
sure.
implies that life evolves to survive in the universe, not the other way around.
Well,
But also,
again,
so
I
you claim that design is the best explanation for why these constants are in their parameters versus physical necessity. But design just says, oh, well, something put them there. Whereas physical necessity tells us there are underlying laws, underlying math, underlying reasons, whatever words you want to use, that might explain why they're that way. Why
well,
is that
but I
a
will.
worse explanation than assuming some transcendent creator that put them in that value? And how can we prove, or not even prove, but how can we demonstrate or show the likelihood that those values have, that these parameters have the values that they have because they were set, like the dials were set by somebody to be that way?
I will come back again to the example of the moon. The moon is 400 times the diameter of the moon is 400 times smaller than of the sun, and it is exactly 400 times more distant from the Earth. So you have a precise eclipse, and the size of the moon fits the size of the sun. Explain me, why is that so? It could be different, and we would not have a perfect eclipse.
So God made the moon the size that it is so we can see eclipses, rather than the moon just happened to be that size.
That's a possible explanation. If the
Actually,
moon would,
we can still see the corona of the sun, which is a part of the sun when the moon is covering it. So it actually doesn't cover the entire sun.
yeah, but it is about 400 times the size. I can read that to you.
Rounding, yes, I agree with you.
You
But I
know,
would just say that's happenstance.
well, that is our difference, Devin. In your
That would be
view,
like me
everything,
walking into a Foot Locker, picking some random shoe off the shelf, putting it on my foot and saying, aha, this fits me perfectly. This shoe must have been designed specifically for my foot. I don't think that's a better explanation than I just happened to pick up the shoe that's the right size for me.
well, the thing is that if the moon would not have the exact size it has, then it would lose its function and we would not be here. So that is
We
just
might
one.
not, but what was that?
What we're going to do is, in a few minutes, we'll go into the Q&A. If either of you are willing to defer to the other on letting the other have the last word, otherwise at some point I'll just kind of transition us into it on our own. Just want to let you know we're going to go into the Q&A pretty quick here.
Okay. I would think that fairness would say, not I don't want to sound pompous when I say this, but Angela went first, so I think in fairness I should probably get the last word.
Sure, go ahead.
So I don't think that there's any reason to assume that the parameters of our universe have the values they do because they were set by some intelligence. We know a hell of a lot about our reality and how it works. And I just want to expand on that just for a quick second. We don't know everything about everything, but that doesn't mean we don't know anything about anything, just because some people like to make that argument. But we don't know enough to be able to say there is absolutely nothing that is self-contained within reality dictating that these parameters have the values that they do. And I would like to go back to my analogy of the fish swimming around in the ocean, where he seems that, oh, well, it's like the ocean was perfectly designed for me to be in it. But is that really the right way to look at it? Or should we look at it from the perspective of the fish evolved to survive in that particular environment rather than the environment being tailored for the fish?
Gotcha. We are going to jump into the Q&A, folks. So thanks so much for all of your questions. Really appreciate it. And let me just turn my mic up a bit. I'm a little bit low on this side. So very excited to read through these, folks. I really appreciate it. And also want to let you know, I don't think I mentioned at the start, both of the speakers, well, Leophilius, as of now, did not give a link, but I do have Otangelo's link in the description box. So if you're listening and you're like, I like that, I want to hear more, you can hear more by clicking on those links. So, give me 1 second. I'm a little bit behind here. Long day already. Thanks so much for your super chat from Sigifredo Sarabia in the house. Says, Leo, isn't it the old universe gambler's fallacy to ask another person to show another universe to support fine-tuning when you can't do the same to show otherwise?
No, you can't. I mean, the universe is seemingly fine-tuned, but to state that if the parameters are different, life couldn't exist or this, well, we don't know that because we don't. And what I'm saying is that you don't have to show me another universe. I'm saying we don't have another universe to look at to compare ours to.
Gotcha. Michael Dresden, thanks for your super chat, says, he's our local troll, says, I'll save you all the time. The answer is yes, in all caps. Andrew Handelsman responds, Michael Dresden already lost, in all caps. Thanks for that. Saccade, thanks for your super chat, said, saying fine-tuning supports God presupposes that a God exists, which is logically incoherent. Further, life wouldn't exist to observe the universe in any other way, so it's flawed to say it's made for life. I think that's for you, Otangelo.
Okay, I will just cite a syllogism, which I think is a good reply to that. The laws of physics and cosmological parameters are finely tuned to the extreme to permit life. The fine-tuning of the universe is either due to chance, physical necessity, or intelligent design. This fine-tuning is too improbable to be due to chance, and there was no physical necessity or constraint to permit only the parameters that actually exist. Therefore, the fine-tuning is most likely due to intelligent design.
Gotcha. And thanks so much for your super chat from Skeptic Wiz. Says, the theist already won, debate over. Anamorphic Mind, thanks for your super chat. Let's see. Says, Leophilius wins over, let's see. I'm trying to remember. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to remember. We had, okay, that's what it was. So sorry. I missed one of the questions up here. So Brian Stevens, thanks for your super chat. Patreon question said, which scientists, in parentheses, names and papers, did the calculations about changing the parameters of the universe? I think that's for you, Otangelo.
Well, I would suggest that he reads Martin Rees, just 6 numbers, and he gives a receipt of the universe of 6 parameters, which must be precisely finely tuned in order to have a life-permitting universe.
Gotcha. And thanks for subscribing. I saw there was 1 or 2 people that subbed during this stream, so we appreciate you being here. Thrilled to have you. It's just that I'm so sorry that I'm a little bit slow in keeping up with the, as I see the notifications come up in Streamlabs. And thanks for your super chat from Sigifredo Sarabia. Shoots out another one who they asked, does the universe follow math or create math?
Is that for both of us or one of us?
I think that's a good question. Could go either way if you guys each want to respond.
All right. If you want to go answer that first, Angelo, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, so the physical laws, they are based on mathematical formulas which enforce of how physical matter behaves. So it is not just a description, it is a prescription.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So mathematics is a human abstraction. It was entirely created by humans. If humans didn't exist, math wouldn't exist. What math describes would still exist, but the description itself would not, because we invented that description as a way of understanding the reality that we live in. Mathematics and the laws of nature are inherent to it. They don't transcend it and impose themselves upon it.
Gotcha. And Kevin Gulfau, I know I mispronounced that. Sorry, Kevin. Thanks for your super chat. Said, question for Otangelo, how is your argument any different from the sentient puddle example popularized by Carlin? I think that's referring to George Carlin.
Yes.
You have too many assumptions in your argument.
Well, first of all, in order for the puddle to adapt or evolve to the universe, we need to have a universe. And in order to have a universe, we need a Big Bang which is finely tuned. The expansion rate must be finely tuned. The cosmological constant must be finely tuned. And so you need to first explain that. How did the Big Bang come to have the finely tuned parameters permitting life, permitting universe? And only after you have this explained, you can figure out about the evolution of life.
Gotcha. And Kent Hoven's CPA
What a job.
accountant, but asks, why quote atheists like Hawking to prove God exists?
Well, I don't think that is important that I just quote theists. I think many formidable scientists have discovered many things, and we can quote them. And that doesn't mean that they need to have as a philosophy, as a religion, to be theists.
Gotcha. And thanks for your super chat. Franks92 says, good job, Leo. Hope to see more debates from you on this channel. Great debut. Got a fan out
Hope
there.
to be invited to more.
Absolutely. We're glad to have each of you guys back. It's always a pleasure. And Flume666, thanks for your super chat. Didn't see a comment, whether it be just support for the channel. We appreciate it. If you want to add a comment, just shoot it into the old live chat as a normal chat and tag me. Z Leaping Bear, thanks for your super chat, said, what is the complexity of God? Is he more simple than the universe? Is he more probable Is he more probable, this quote simple unquote God, with his complexity, or for the universe?
Well, I thank for that question. I think it's a good question. And God, of course, is not made of parts. He is spirit, and so he is not complex. It's a simple entity, just composed of a mind, and the mind is not complex.
Gotcha. And thanks so much for your super chat from Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, says, how do I get in contact with you, Leo? I think that they would like your email.
Yeah, I can I don't really know because I don't see their name in chat. I mean I could give them my email. I just don't really want to say it out loud on in the live chat because I don't want everybody to have it. But
Gotcha.
I'm sure there could be some way I could get in contact with them.
You got it. So Athena, either email me, or if you put your email in the comments, then Leo can look it up afterward. And last, I think that might be it for super chats. Let me just double check really quick and refresh it. Strangely, I can't see. Oh, we do have one more. Sorry about that, Kevin. We for some reason, I don't know if it's just me because I can't tell, but my live chat isn't like refreshing. I'm not seeing any more comments from anybody in the live chat, which is weird. It's just like kind of frozen. However, they are showing up in the creator studio. So Kevin Gulfau, thanks for your super chat, said, Otangelo, you didn't answer my last question. You only presented more assumptions. If your argument can be boiled down to the sentient puddle, it relies on assuming.
I don't understand the objection. I said in order to have a puddle, you need a fine-tuned Big Bang. So before anything physical exists, you need already to have fine-tuning, and you have to explain that.
Can I jump in here really quick as to the whole puddle analogy?
So
that's kind of like with the fish in the ocean, where it's asking, is the ocean designed for the fish, or did the fish evolve to be capable of surviving in the ocean? So that's kind of, that analogy that I gave is kind of a different version of the whole puddle argument. Just wanted to throw that out there really quick.
Gotcha. Let's see. I can give you a chance to respond if you'd like to, Otangelo. I just got the chat to work again.
Well, I can quote an entire explanation of the puddle thinking and why it isn't sound, but I think we don't have enough time for that. But I think the relevant thing is to understand that in order to have life evolving on planet Earth, we need to have a universe and a Big Bang which is finely tuned. So that is the first thing that we need to have. And so you have to explain, how did the Big Bang be finely tuned in the first place?
Gotcha. And Kevin Gilfu, sorry I mispronounced it. Thanks for letting me know how to properly pronounce your name. Do appreciate it. And Kevin, let's see. Oh, I think, yep, we just got that one in. So thanks for that. Z Leaping Bear, thanks for your super chat. They sent another one. They said, quote, God is simple, a mind is not complex. I guess we can get to know God in film then. Thanks. Gotcha. Next up, let's see. And yeah, somebody else said that sometimes the chat freezes up for them too. That's weird. That's the first time I've ever seen it in all of my time on YouTube, which is way too many years of my life. But thank you for that. We are going to next go into the standard questions. Call Me Emo, thanks for your question, said, Otangelo, if the fine-tuning argument is sufficient, why invoke God so frequently in biology and cosmology? Couldn't God just create a universe that can generate its own complexities?
Well, theistic evolutionists, they make that claim. They say that God created the basic chemicals and then left them to their own evolutionary behavior, and based on that, then the life evolved. But the thing is that the problem starts with the origin of life, and the probability to have a minimal proteome is 1 to the 10 to the 350,000. So there is that's in the realm of the impossible. So that hypothesis can be excluded based on the probabilities to have the basic building blocks of life and the machines and cellular fabrics by chance. That's not possible.
Gotcha. And Flume666, thanks for your super chat, who said, thanks for all the shows, and Otangelo is a troll. Gotcha.
I don't think so.
I think Otangelo's sincere. Let's see. Let's see. What was it? But thank you. Glad you appreciate the shows, folks. We're always, if you ever want to email me, folks, I have to be honest, the vast majority of the good ideas for this channel are other people. There are people who have emailed them in or something. It's not me. I'm just a guy sending emails out in the background, okay? So if you have ideas on how to improve the channel, feel free. I'm like super teachable. I know that sometimes in the chat, when someone if they do it in a mean way, I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. But if you do it in a polite way, I'm always happy to hear any feedback. And it doesn't have to be like overly polite or anything. Feel free to email me at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. As we really, I got to tell you, I'm serious, folks. This channel is like, in a very real way, it's like a community channel in the sense that, one, I mean, it runs off of the debaters, passionate debaters coming on and making their cases. That's what makes it fun. And then the other thing is, so many great ideas come from you folks, and so I just really appreciate that. Whether it be in it's hard for me to read all the comments after debates, so if you want to be sure that I'll get it, I always check email, and I try to get back to every single email for real. So yeah, I mean, we've got just like kind of things that I'm like looking at in the future, like trying to decide in terms of like, should we do, one thing I'm considering is like, should we do a third of our debates being like political debates, and then a third of them being same like these philosophy of religion type debates, like debates on God's existence, and then maybe a third being kind of miscellaneous, like flat earth, conspiracy theories like the Illuminati this Thursday, and we might have debate on furries coming up. Yeah, for real.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, you bet.
Is T-Jump going to be in that debate on the Illuminati?
Gotcha. Yes, he will be, and so that's the one, folks.
That's what I thought.
If you're watching at home, you're seeing the watch page on the bottom right of your screen. I think that's the one I put on there today. Yeah, you're seeing the promo poster. For that debate.
I'm stupid. I could have just looked at that and answered my own question.
No.
Wow.
When I debate,
way
I
to be observant there, Leo.
It's
James, there is Atheist Edge. They have a debate with me, Otangelo, truthful or troll. So if someone of the audience doubts if I'm a troll or not, just watch that video.
Gotcha. Definitely. Glad you let us know that. And, but yeah, so I'm pumped, folks. I'm excited about this summer. We've got a lot of great debates that are coming up. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. But yeah, let us know, though, if you're kind of like, man, we need more. Someone said more Fight the Flat Earth and Team Skeptic, please. They are supposed to come on this coming Sunday. So that should be a good tag team debate. And we might even get Craig or Fight the Flat Earth this Friday against Austin or Witsit Gets It on Flat Earth. So that should happen. We're hoping this Friday that'll happen. That should be an epic one during the day. Trying to think of anything else. We are definitely looking for new topics. We are at a total loss, and it's a bummer. So I basically had their channel. This is their channel name, so it's like self-deprecating. They got a good sense of humor. Their name is Those Annoying Vegans, and they're a couple, and they're very pleasant. They're very polite and very congenial. They're terrific. So what I'd like to do is have them come on, but we can't find people who will take on the vegans. And I kind of it's not easy to argue against vegans, actually. So I appreciate that people at least take them serious. But if there's anyone out there that's like, hey, I'll prep and I'll do a debate on veganism and I will take the, I guess you could call it anti-veganism position. If you're out there, please email me at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. And then JPP3030, thanks for your super chat, just said, super chat for responding. Appreciate that. Let's see, responding to the questions, I'm confused, but I appreciate it either way. Flume666, thanks for your super chat, said, I'm serious, I've watched most of your content and know Otangelo from Atheist Experience, so I know he's a troll. Otangelo, is this true?
For the record, I don't think you're a troll. I thought you're sincere and respectful, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
I don't take this kind of criticism serious, so I'm fine with that.
I think they're trolling you. They're trolling you by calling you a troll. Let's see. What is the? We got another. Someone said, James, what about Islam versus Christianity as a topic? I am curious to get your feedback in the live chat or from you, Otangelo and Leo. We don't do a ton of religion versus religion debates anymore, like Christian versus atheist, Christian versus Jew. And the reason is most of the viewers, I think, I'm not positive, but I think most are atheists and they like having a dog in the fight, so to speak. And so that's why I haven't done a ton of we don't usually do like Christian versus Muslim or Hindu without it being a triple threat, because that way we can have Christian versus Muslim versus atheist, which can be a challenging kind of social dynamic because, but let us know, folks, if you what your thoughts are on that. If you're, as an atheist, if you're always wanting to have a dog in the fight, I don't blame you. I mean, that's kind of how I am. Or if I was seeing something that was relevant, I would want my position represented if possible. So,
I still want somebody to debate me on whether or not the universe had a beginning. My position would be no.
Was that you that ran it by me?
Since Nephilim Free backed out, I don't know if he's here.
Oh, that was you.
Yep.
Yeah, you've been pretty patient in getting into a debate. Thanks for your patience, because I remember trying to set that up.
No problem.
And pineapple on pizza debate, maybe. April 1st, we might do that one. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other ones, though. We are moving in a more political direction. It's, I think, just going to kind of mix things up, because we often, gosh, there are some months where it's like almost everything is creation versus evolution, which is fun, but anything can be done too much. So let us know, though, folks. Always open ideas. We hope you have a great rest of your day. That's all for questions, actually. So unless I missed anybody's, forgive me if I did, but want to say thanks for being here, folks. Thanks especially to our speakers, though, as they just make it fun. We appreciate them being here. So thanks so much, Leo Filius and Otangelo.
Thanks for hosting me, and thanks for agreeing, Otangelo. Like I said, I thought you were very sincere and very respectful, and I also thought that you were well educated on the subjects and capable of keeping up with technicalities, which is something that I don't necessarily find very often. So I very much appreciate and respect you for that.
Well, I must say that I was unprepared, and it is quite some time that I am not focusing myself on the fine-tuning argument. So I had just since last night to prepare myself for that debate. But my focus is more on abiogenesis and evolution, on these kind of topics. And if James enjoyed my participation, it was the first time that we had a one-to-one talk here on James' channel, then yeah, I feel free to invite me again, and it will be fun to discuss something that I have more dedicated time on it to study it.
Gotcha. And Flume666, thanks for your last minute super chat. I always love when we get debate. Let me just, okay, good. My volume is back. It's always juicy when we get a debate call out, when somebody in the live chat actually offers, or what's the word I'm looking for? Challenges someone to a debate, a duel. They slap them in the face with their glove. Flume666 says, I'm open for a beginning debate, namely regarding the universe, and I'm on the yes side. So, Leo, you might have someone there for your topic if you want.
Sounds good.
Ideally, forgive me, guys, I'll be just completely sincere. Ideally, if it's a tag team debate, I think it would be best, because I think that it's like, I worry that because it's away from our main flagship topic of like the religion debates, I'm like kind of like, oh, maybe this would be better as a tag because it'll draw more people if more people are, but like kind of represented, you could say. But we'll see. We'll set it up in one way, shape, or form. So thanks, guys. Want to say thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Take care.